You're sitting at a red light in your $87,000 Ford F-250 King Ranch Edition. The leather still smells brand new, the dash is lit up like a spaceship, and when you glide past that Prius, you're suddenly 6 inches taller than everyone else on the road. You feel strong, you feel ready, you feel like the kind of guy who can deal with whatever life throws at him. Except here's the thing. You work in IT. Your job requires zero construction, zero farming, and zero towing. The bed of your truck has hauled exactly 3 things in the last 8 months. A bag of mulch from Lowe's, your kid's bike, and a case of Costco water bottles. Meanwhile, you're bleeding money so fast you basically turned into a rolling subsidy program for Ford's quarterly earnings report. My name is Carlo, and you're watching Carlo's Wealth Lab, and today we're going to calculate the real cost of the payment princess epidemic. Not just what the dealer says, and not the story your buddies at the bar used to justify it. We're going to do the numbers on what it actually costs to cosplay as a blue-collar worker while commuting to a climate-controlled office where the heaviest thing you pick up is a laptop. Because somewhere between 2015 and today, American men collectively decided masculinity could be bought through monthly payments on a vehicle built for commercial construction work. And the math behind that choice is so brutally bad, it makes buying lottery tickets look like a responsible investment plan. Let's start with the purchase price because that's where your brain shuts off. The average new pickup truck in America is now $62,000. That's not a fancy trim, that's the average. If you want the one that makes you feel like you own a ranch, the King Ranch or the Laramie Longhorn, or whatever name branding consultants decided sounds tough, you're staring at $75,000 to $95,000. For context, that's more than most people make in a year. The median household income in America is $84,000. You are financing a vehicle that costs more than a full year of your family's earnings. Sit with that while we add up what this decision really costs you. The dealer sits you down and points to the monthly payment. It's $1,247. That feels almost reasonable when they stretch it over 84 months. That's 7 years. Aha! You're going to be paying on this truck longer than most marriages last. But sure, $1,247 sounds doable until we layer in the costs nobody mentions during the test drive. First, the fuel. Your F-250 gets about 15 miles per gallon in mixed driving if you're lucky. A Honda Accord gets 35 miles per gallon. Let's say you drive 15,000 miles a year, which is pretty standard. With gas hovering around $3.50 a gallon, your truck runs you about $3,500 a year in fuel. The sedan costs about $1,500. That's a $2,000 annual gap, or $167 a month, just because you wanted to sit higher than everyone else. Then there's insurance. People will tell you trucks are cheaper to insure, and for liability, maybe, but you aren't insuring a work truck. You're insuring a $90,000 luxury asset. Total a Camry and the bank loses $30,000. Total your Platinum F-250 and they lose $90,000. That replacement cost jacks up collision and comprehensive. Realistically, that's another $60 to $80 a month versus the sedan. Now tires, those huge all-terrain tires you absolutely needed, even though you only drive on asphalt. A full set of $1,500 to $2,000. You'll replace them every 40 to 50,000 miles. On a sedan, tires might be $600. That's another $50 to $75 a month when you amortize it properly. Maintenance? Bigger vehicle, bigger everything. Oil changes cost more because the engine holds more oil. Brake jobs cost more because the rotors are massive. Everything scales up. Add another $100 a month compared to a normal car. We haven't even touched registration and property taxes yet. Many states tax vehicles by value. On a $90,000 truck, annual registration can easily hit $800 to $1,200 depending on where you live. Call it another $80 a month, so let's stack it up. Your truck payment is $1,247. Add $167 for extra gas and $60 for the insurance premium and $75 for tire depreciation. Add $100 for the maintenance delta, add $80 for registration. Your monthly cost is now $1,729. But wait, we're still not done because you didn't pay cash for this monument to American Express. You financed it at 7.2% because rates aren't what they used to be. And your credit is good, but not great. Over 84 months, you're not paying $90,000. You're paying $104,748. That's $14,748 in pure interest. Money you handed a bank for the privilege of borrowing money to buy a depreciating asset. Now compare that to the alternate universe where you buy a 3-year-old Toyota Camry for $28,000. Your payment is around $450 a month. Insurance is $180, gas is $125, maintenance is minimal. Your total transportation cost lands at around $850 a month. The difference between the truck and the sedan is $879 per month. That's $10,548 per year. Over the 7 years you'll be paying off the truck, choosing it over the sedan costs you $73,836. $83,000. That's not an exaggeration. That's not fuzzy math. That's the real opportunity cost of needing to feel like you could theoretically tow a boat you don't own to a lake you never visit. But here's what makes this truly insane. You're not only spending $73,836 extra, you're also giving up the investment returns on that money. If you took that $879 a month difference and put it into a boring index fund, averaging 8%, after 7 years you'd have $95,000. You could buy the lake house, you could buy the boat, you could actually become the person you're pretending to be when you drive that truck, who, instead, you're stuck in traffic burning premium fuel while paying on a vehicle that drops $15,000 the moment it rolls off the lot. And none of that even counts the psychological weight. The stress of knowing one surprise expense, one job loss, one medical bill could blow up your ability to make that $1,729 monthly payment. You're not driving a truck, you're driving a financial anxiety machine on all-terrain tires. The question isn't whether you can handle the monthly payment. The question is what that payment is stealing from your real future. Let's talk about what happens when you slowly wreck your finances over 7 years while telling yourself you're being practical. Because the truck isn't just expensive. It bends your entire financial ecosystem like a black hole bends space. Every decision you make for the next decade gets filtered through that $1,729 monthly obligation. First, it's the home that you cannot buy. Mortgage lenders use something called debt-to-income ratio. They want your total monthly debt under 43% of your gross income. That truck payment alone eats 26% of an $85,000 salary before you even think about a mortgage. Yeah, you just priced yourself out of a $350,000 house because you needed to look rugged at the Starbucks drive-thru. Then it's the vacation you don't take. Your buddies plan a week in Colorado, flights are $400, the Airbnb split is $300, lift tickets are $500, that's $1,200 total. You check your account, you just paid the truck, you've got $600 until Friday. You tell them you're too slammed at work. They go without you. You stay home and wash the truck in the driveway, telling yourself detailing the paint is basically a hobby. Then there's the emergency fund that never shows up. Advisors say you need 6 months of expenses saved. For you, that's about $18,000, but after the truck, insurance, rent, student loans, groceries, you've got maybe $200 left each month. At that pace, it takes 7.5 years to build the emergency fund, which means for 7.5 years, you're one transmission problem away from a credit card spiral. And speaking of credit cards, let's talk about the debt that piles up because of the truck. You can't buy new work clothes, so it's $400 on the Visa. Your buddy's wedding is out of state, so the hotel goes on the card. Christmas shows up and you didn't save for gifts, so that's $800 on the card. Within 2 years, you're carrying $6,000 at 23%. You're paying $115 a month in interest alone, which is pure financial evaporation. You're paying a bank for the privilege of having bought things in the past. Now let's hit relationship strain. If you're married or living with a partner, that truck payment becomes a third person in the relationship. Every money conversation has it hanging over the room. Your partner wants to save for a down payment. You can't because of the truck. They want to fix the leaking roof. You can't because of the truck. They suggest selling the truck. You get defensive because your identity is tied to it. Resentment bills. That truck isn't only draining money, it's draining your peace. Here's what nobody tells you about expensive vehicles. They make you career risk averse. You can't quit the job you hate because you need the steady paycheck for the truck. You can't negotiate hard because you're terrified of getting fired and losing everything. You can't take that entrepreneurial swing or career pivot because the truck has you handcuffed to sustainability. That $90,000 status symbol just turned you into a wage slave. And the worst part, the truck doesn't even make you happy after month 3. Hedonic adaptation is real. You get used to everything. Week 1, climbing into the cab feels incredible. You feel successful. You feel powerful. But by week 12, it's just your car. The thrill is gone. You barely notice the leather. But the payment stays. The insurance bill shows up like clockwork. You traded permanent financial stress for temporary emotional payoff. Let's run a thought experiment. 2 versions of you in parallel universes. Universe A, you bought the $90,000 truck. You're paying, you're stressed, you're stuck in your job. Universe B, you bought the $28,000 sedan and invested the $879 difference. After 7 years, Universe A owns a truck worth maybe $45,000 and has zero savings. Universe B owns a car worth $12,000 but has $95,000 invested. Which one is actually winning? Here's where I lose some of you. Because you say, but I use my truck. I haul stuff. I off-road. I tow my camper. Great. If that's genuinely true and you use its capability weekly, fine. You bought a tool. But be honest, most truck owners use the bed maybe 6 times a year. You could rent a U-Haul for $29.99 each time and save $80,000 over 7 years. You're not buying utility. You're buying a costume. The auto industry has spent billions convincing American men truck ownership is tied to masculinity, competence, being a real man. They built a whole mythology. Commercials show trucks climbing mountains, towing boats covered in mud. They don't show the reality. A guy in a business casual, alone in traffic, listening to a productivity podcast, while making a payment that's murdering his net worth. Dealerships love it. They don't care if you can afford it. They care if you can fog a mirror and qualify for financing. They sit you down and run the numbers. Okay, at 84 months, we can get you to $1,247 a month. Does that work? And you think, well, I make $7,000 a month, so yeah, I guess. You're not thinking about insurance, gas, tires, registration, or the fact you just locked up 18% of your gross income for 7 years. This is the part where I'm supposed to give you a hack, a loophole, a way to have the truck in financial security. But there isn't. The math is the math. That truck is a luxury item pretending to be a necessity, and it's going to cost you somewhere between $80,000 and $120,000 more than a sensible alternative over the payment window. The only way to win is to stop playing, and I mean that literally, not as motivational poster fluff. You need to opt out of the whole truck as identity industrial complex. Here's what that actually looks like. You walk into a dealership, not for a truck, but for the most boring, reliable sedan you can find. Honda Accord, Toyota Camry, maybe a Mazda 3 if you want to feel slightly less dead inside. You buy it used, 3 years old, cash if you can. If not cash, you finance for 36 months max, not 84. Your payment is $350 instead of $1,100. That's $750 a month you just handed back to yourself. What do you do with $750? You could invest it and end up with $95,000 in 7 years like we calculated. But let's be real about human psychology. You're not investing every dollar. You'll spend some because you're human and you need dopamine. So spend it on things that actually improve your life. Take the trip you've been delaying. Buy that nice dinner. Upgrade your mattress because you spend a third of your life on it. The difference is these purchases don't come with a 7-year anchor chained to your ankle. And when your buddy pulls up in his new Tundra and jokes about your cute little car, you smile because you know what? He doesn't. You know his payment is bigger than your old rent. You know he's one transmission away from panic. You know that in 5 years you'll have choices and he'll have a depreciating asset and a payment book. That's what dealerships don't want you to understand. Cars aren't investment. They're not even really assets. They're tools. And you don't buy a $90,000 hammer to hang a picture frame. You buy the tool that matches the job. The truck lobby convinced a whole generation sedan drivers are less capable, less prepared, less masculine. It's brilliant marketing and total fiction. Your grandfather drove a station wagon and built his own house. Your vehicle has nothing to do with competence. It has everything to do with financial literacy. Let's kill the, but it holds its value argument because I want to bury this myth. Yes, trucks depreciate slower than sedans. Maybe a truck loses 40% in 5 years, while a sedan loses 55%. Sounds great, right? But you started at $90,000 instead of $28,000. The truck lost $36,000. The sedan lost $15,400. You still lost more on the truck. Percent depreciation is useless when the absolute dollar loss is double. And the I might need it excuse you might need a lot. You might need a motorcycle for lane splitting. You might need a minivan if you have 4 kids. You might need a sports car if you suddenly take up track racing. We don't buy vehicles around hypothetical 2% scenarios. We buy around what we do 95% of the time. And 95% of the time, you're commuting alone on paved roads. The real question is this: are you buying the truck because you need it or because you feel something? If it's the second, fine, just admit it. Say, I'm spending $40,000 extra over 7 years to feel like a truck guy. Own it, but don't lie and call it practical. Economics calls these Veblen goods. Demand rises with price because ownership signals status, luxury watches, designer bags, and yes, absurdly expensive pickups that never touch dirt. You're not buying transportation. You're buying a billboard that says, I can afford this payment, even though you can't. Here's my real advice. If you already own the truck and you're drowning, sell it. I don't care if you're upside down. I don't care if it feels like defeat. You don't captain a sinking ship just to protect pride. Take the hit now, buy something reasonable, and stop the bleeding. Yes, you will lose money on the sale, but you'll lose less than keeping the payment for another 5 years. If you don't own it yet and you're considering it, I'm going to save you $80,000 and 7 years of stress. Don't. Go test drive the boring sedan. Sit in it. It's quiet. It's comfortable. It gets you to work. And in traffic, you won't be doing mental math about whether you can afford your own car. The auto industry built an empire convincing you you're not enough unless you drive their overpriced machinery. They weaponized insecurity and turned it into monthly payments. The only way to win is to see it. You don't need the truck. You never did. What you need is margin, career options, and the ability to sleep without checking your bank account. The boring sedan gives you that. The $90,000 truck takes it away. So next time you're in that dealership and the salesperson is walking you through the leather-wrapped wheel, the heated seats, and the 17 cup holders, remember, they aren't selling you a vehicle. They're selling you a financial prison with really nice upholstery. And when your buddy shows up to the barbecue in his brand new F-350 and asks what you're driving now, tell him the truth. You're driving a paid-off Camry that costs $200 a month in gas and insurance. And with the money that you're not burning on payments, you booked Italy. You're sleeping 8 hours. Your retirement account actually has money. And that's not losing. That's winning so hard most people can't recognize it anymore because we've been trained to measure success by the size of our monthly payments instead of the size of our freedom. The math is obvious, the truck is a trap, and the way out is to stop pretending burning $80,000 over 7 years makes you more of a man. Real strength is looking at the numbers, admitting you got sold a lie, and picking the path that actually builds wealth instead of the one that only looks good on Instagram. Buy the boring car, keep your money, build your life.